Hey Rich, so today is going to be number 60 through 51 of my top 100 books of all time. So let's get right into this. So number 60, I have The Other Wind by Ursula K. Le Guin. This is the sixth book? Is it the sixth book in the Earthsea Cycle series? And it's either 6 or 3. It's either 6 or 3, I don't remember. But I liked Earthsea a lot. It's not, at the moment, I don't think it's one of my favorite series of all time, but I like a lot of what was going on in Earthsea. I like a lot of I liked her writing style a lot, of the immersiveness of the story, the less action-packed, more philosophical take on, especially as you got further into the series, especially the back half, the last 3 books in the series, were really philosophical in a lot of ways, and I like thoughtful, maybe not philosophical, but really thoughtful and really contemplative and just not so action heavy. But the fact that you could do that and tell that type of story in a epic fantasy, high fantasy world like that is really cool. So there's a lot of really great stuff in the Earthsea Cycle, and so for sure I'm perfectly happy to have books from that series on this top 100 list. Number 59 I have as the Lady Trent Memoirs by Marie Brennan. So this is A Natural History of Dragons, The Tropic of Serpents, Voyage of the Basilisk, there we go, and In the Labyrinth of Drakes, which is, and then there's the last book, which is what is the last book in the series called? Within Sanctuary of Wings. That's what the 5th book in the series is called. There's also one other book in the series that I haven't read, so I can't comment on if I like it or not, but the 5 books in the main series are really, really good. I just, in general, really enjoyed this series, enjoyed my time reading them. They're different than I was expecting. I went into them based off of the title of the first one, A Natural History of Dragons. I went into it thinking it would be kind of like a academic study, historical essay type paper on natural history of dragons, or something more along those lines, more scientific in its approach to telling the story, and I was really excited for that. That's not what it is. It's a memoir of a character, and that's, once I could readjust my expectations for the book, I found myself really enjoying what was going on, and so that I just really enjoyed the series. Book 1, the covers are beautiful. I showed you the covers, and just the art style, everything about them. I just really enjoyed this series. I do have somewhat of a ranking for this series, but it's not super exact or anything like that, and they're all really close to each other, so I don't really want to rank them or try and split them up and spread them throughout the list here. And also, by putting this on here as a series in its entirety, it allows me to put more books on this series and talk about more books. But anyways, that is number 59. That brings us to number 58, which is The Last of the Mohicans by James Fenimore Cooper. I just recently finished reading, and it's been a couple months now since I read it, but I just read this book, and I should have a review for it by now. So yeah, definitely go check out the review for The Last of the Mohicans. But this one, I really enjoyed this book. I think I talked about the Deerslayer in a previous entry of this series, and the two of them, I don't remember for sure, but I think I did. But the two of them I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed both of the books. I enjoyed the experience of reading, or listening rather, to the Deerslayer just a little bit more than I enjoyed the experience of listening to The Last of the Mohicans, but the story itself I enjoyed more in The Last of the Mohicans. Yeah, that's really all I'm going to talk about. I will definitely, if you want to know more of my thoughts, go watch the review, because that's definitely where I talk more about my thoughts. At number 57, I have The Man in the Iron Mask by Alexandre Dumas. This series, this is the D'Artagnan Romances is the series, so it starts with the Three Musketeers. My brain just completely blanked, but The Three Musketeers is the first book in the series. The Man in the Iron Mask is the final book in the series, and I mean, as you can see, it's rather chonky, but it's very, very good. These books are utterly fantastic. The humor, but also the character development. They're not comedies, they're romances. They're the old term for the old definition of romance, not the love story. There is some love story romance that is a part of these books, but primarily this is a adventurous romp, is more along the lines of what romance used to mean, and so they're thrilling. They're like a thriller comedy type thing, and they're just super fun. But there's also some great character development, some great characters as a whole in the series. Just the way that Dumas set them in a historical time period and wove the story around history, fit them into history in the way that he did, it's really, really cool. Just the stories themselves are fantastic. I don't really need to talk about this. Most people know about at least the Three Musketeers and most likely the Man in the Iron Mask as well, at least to the degree of they have heard of them and know maybe a little bit about what they're about. And so I'm gonna leave it there, but I do really enjoy this book, although I was definitely surprised by how important the Man in the Iron Mask was not. Which it seems weird, but it's the truth. Anyways, 56 is Jurassic Park. I don't have access at the moment to Kate's copy of this. I probably do, but I'm not going to run and grab it. Anyways, Jurassic Park is a science fiction, it's a classic science fiction novel. It's actually not even a classic because it's from like the 90s or something like that. But it's a science fiction novel by Michael Crichton, I believe is how his name is pronounced. And it is, of course, dinosaurs. It is cloning dinosaurs, what happens when you bring dinosaurs back to life, and then try and make a theme park attraction out of them. What happens when you go above and beyond your authority to do that type of thing? And I think it would be really fun to have a discussion in regards to this book, and this is just a thought that popped into my head just now as I was thinking about it, but a discussion with this, looking at this story through the lens of Tolkien's concept of subcreation. Because they go hand in hand in a lot of ways, but then they also separate in the fact that one of them is very science is God, whereas the other one is God is God. And so just kind of comparing those two, but looking at them through the lens of subcreation, that would be really interesting to me, and I think that would be fun to do. I'm not smart enough to do it, at least not right now. I don't want to do it, but it'd be fun. Anyways, that was unimportant, but Jurassic Park, I really liked it. I liked the thriller, horror, mystery aspect of it. I like the dinosaurs, of course I like dinosaurs. You can't not like dinosaurs. There's just a whole lot in this that I really enjoyed, and it was a great example of science fiction, or of what science fiction can be, and how to do science fiction in a way that I enjoyed, because science fiction is not my primary genre that I read. Anyways, enough about that one now. Let's move on to number 55. The Legend of Luke by Brian Jakes. This is another one in the Redwall series. This is the only book that is this is a hard one. It is a direct sequel as well as a prequel to one of the books. So it is a direct sequel to Mothflower, which is a direct sequel to Martin the Warrior. So we actually have this kind of this trilogy here, but it's also a prequel to Martin the Warrior, or kind of, it's not really a prequel, but it goes at the same time. It takes place about the same time as Martin the Warrior is happening on the timeline, but this one, it tells the story of Martin's father, who is basically a pirate hunter. He's going after pirates type thing, and it's really fun story, really cool story. The framing narrative is that Martin is going to learn about looking for information about his father, and then you get into the actual story. So it's kind of like a sequel, but also kind of a prequel to some degree. But anyways, I really like this one a lot. I like the story that's going on here. I like what we learn about this world as we continue going, and of course the cover. How is there a giant ship jammed between rocks like that? There's I don't know, just a whole lot of really cool stuff in this series, and in that book specifically. That brings me to number 54, Cyrano de Bergerac by Edmond Rostand. That's what I was thinking. Edmond Rostand. So Cyrano de Bergerac is actually a play. It is not a screenplay, a stage play written by Edmond Rostand, and so good. It's humorous, it's poetic, it's heartbreaking, sad, thrilling, like all the things. It's just a really good screenplay, but it's actually, D'Artagnan is referenced. The character D'Artagnan from the D'Artagnan romances is referenced. I don't believe he makes an appearance, but he is referenced, and so it's kind of like, yeah, we're gonna pretend like this thing exists. Of course, D'Artagnan was also based off of a real life character, real life person, so it's also kind of just not directly referencing the books, but kind of using the books version of this D'Artagnan character as who they're referring to when they're referencing this D'Artagnan. Anyways, unimportant. I love this story. The story itself is wonderful. It's I don't think we ever ended up doing a review or a discussion about this. Kate and I were supposed to do a discussion about this video, or about this book, or play, script, whatever you want to call it. But it's really good story, really interesting story, lots of great stuff in it. So definitely go read that one as well. Deserves to be on this list. 53 is The Scarlet Pimpernel by Baroness Orczy. This is a French Revolution thriller. It's like spy thriller type thing. There's a character who's disguising himself, who's trying to save people's lives. The story that you experience as you go through the story is just so fantastic. I love this book. I read this, I think I read it like 1 or 2 books after I read A Tale of Two Cities, which I did not like, which I mentioned that in my previous video, in my 70 through 61 video, because I was talking about Oliver Twist and how Oliver Twist was written by Charles Dickens, as was A Tale of Two Cities, and I didn't like A Tale of Two Cities. However, this is basically the same time period. It's a very different story though, and I love this one. It fit my tastes a lot better. I do need to reread A Tale of Two Cities. I know I need to reread it and experience it and actually enjoy it, because I know that I can. I just haven't done so. Anyways, love this book. Very, very good book. Yeah, I want to do a play with this book. That would be fun. That brings us to number 52, and unfortunately I only have the first book in this series, and so we're just gonna hold the first book in the series. I will flash the other pictures up on the screen real quick though, the other covers up on the screen, and that is The Wingfeather Saga by Andrew Peterson. The first book is On the Edge of the Dark Sea of Darkness, book 2 is North or Be Eaten, book 3 is The Monster in the Hollows, and book 4 is The Warden and the Wolf King. I really enjoyed the series, book 2 especially, 1 and 2. 1 introduces us to this world. We barely get a taste of it, but there's a whole story going on, and it's a very centralized location, a very contained story being told. We then branch out in book 2 and start moving out into the greater, wider world and tell a fantastic story in book 2, and a good story in books 3 and 4 as well, but they play with tropes that I don't care for, and so that's kind of what brings them down a little bit. But I really enjoyed this series. Christian fantasy, really cool magic system, really cool world that's being set up and built. Good characters, good, interesting. It is middle grade, so understand that as you go into it. The characters are young, they're probably doing things that they couldn't really realistically do. That's alright, it's still a fun book, a really, really fun series. So Wingfeather Saga is number 52. And then that brings us finally to number 51, which is The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. This one, again, I read this one in school, so it's been a long time since I read it, but I just really enjoyed it. And part of what surprised me about my enjoyment of this is I kind of started reading a little bit of Tom Sawyer, and I didn't love what I was reading of Tom Sawyer, possibly because of the way that I was reading it and the fact that it was for a different type of, it was more for like a writing assignment type thing, and breaking down sentence structure and all that kind of stuff, and I hated that. And so Tom Sawyer I wasn't enjoying at all, but Huckleberry Finn I really enjoyed. Again, you go on an adventure, follow these characters as they're just floating down the river type thing, and then going on their own adventures after that. There's just a lot of really fun stuff going on in this series, or in this book, I mean, and yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. I need to read more Mark Twain, and I probably should reread Adventures of Huckleberry Finn at some point. So that is numbers 60 through 51. We will get into our top 50 with the next video in this series. So thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.